That's the thing. I was like, when she started coming home being like, the mom and the dad, she started putting things together and being like, the mom and the mom syrup, like we have a bottle of syrup, one is bigger, one is smaller. And she's like, this is the dad syrup and this is the mom syrup. Like, where is it? You didn't get this at home. Where is this coming from? How many dads do you like even know? She knows a few, but yeah, it's very pervasive messaging, I guess.
Yeah, we're sitting at the restaurant and Evie's all in the next table's like, oh, where's Dad going? Not your dad.
Right. It was just some random white man. I was like, that's their dad.
Oh God, so embarrassing.
And you also have an older, not so little one too.
Yes, an 8-year-old, John Michael, who was born in Georgia, in Albany, Georgia.
I'm curious. This wasn't even on my list, but were there a lot of differences, just sort of broadly speaking, in the experience of attending birth there versus here?
Yeah, it's very, very different. You have options here. There are no options there. Like night and day. I remember getting into the actual OR, and that's when they make you like lay flat. And I was like, I went in full panic attack. I was like, I cannot do this. I keep throwing up. I'm not gonna lay on my back. I'm gonna die. I literally said that. I was like, I'm gonna die. And I told the anesthesiologist, I was like, you gotta do something. I was like, I'm literally dying right now. And he was like, I'm looking at your monitor. He was like, your heart rate is fine. You're fine. And I was like, no, I'm literally dying. Like, I'm dying. And he was like, no, you're not. You're fine. And then I guess my doctor had enough with me like doing that. So then he gave me Versed, maybe, and I fell asleep. And I woke up like, I can't even tell you how many minutes or hours later. I just know they were like, he's here and he's hungry. You need to wake up. And I was like, okay. And it was like, I don't even know what time it was. I just know I woke up. I was in the recovery room. It was the middle of the night, so nobody was in there. I just woke up in this like, looked like abandoned hospital great room. It was just like weird. And they rolled me into the room and was like, here you go, feed him. And I was like, how? Like, what? But yeah. Wow. It was really interesting.
Did you have a lactation?
After. Way after. Like, I had to seek her out.
Curious though, in your, not even necessarily in the birth experience, but sort of in your journey through, and this is sort of a question for both of y'all, for your respective kind of pregnancy and birth experiences, what, if any, was sort of an experience you had, whether it was with a provider or like within your kind of family unit or anything else, that felt unique to like not being like a cisgender hetero couple? Do you feel like anything? I would sort of, in shorthand, I'd be like, did you have any like queer experiences during sort of pregnancy, labor, and birth? But that's like my shorthand. I don't necessarily have to like, whatever language you want to use, but I'm curious.
Switching through midwives, like Jay being genderqueer was like weird for them because I use the pronouns he, him, and I say husband. And like they kept switching his gender marker in the system, and like, I don't know, it was weird stuff going on with that. And then when it was time to put Jay's name on the birth certificate, they made us go get our marriage license, which is fine because we live down the street. But I thought that was weird because like, what if I would have came from like somewhere far? Like, I don't know. It was inconvenient, and it wasn't something that was on my list of things to pack. Like, I've watched a million videos, and like my friend gave birth there with her baby daddy, not her husband, and they didn't ask for anything to put his name on there. So I just was like, this is weird. And then it was like a gay lady who was like making us do it.
Really?
It was really awkward.
It was awkward. I'm like, you're very masculine here, but whatever. So those were the only things that were like, I think, unique to us, like being not a cis hetero couple that I could think of. Um, um, I don't know. The birth control questions were weird because she's like, "You don't want to come back at your 6-week appointment to be pregnant," and I'm like,
Oh yeah. That was when we actually finally saw one of the midwives we knew. Was when we were about to get discharged. She came and evaluated her for discharge, and she was like, "So, let's talk about birth control." And we were like, "Okay." She was like, "It's clear you know how to make a baby, so we don't want you to come back pregnant at your 6th checkup." And she was like, "So, do you have any questions?" And what was your answer? Because after that, I was just like done. I was like
you were so
dying
tired.
laughing.
No, but you also exhausted because that was the day after the screaming night when you be learning.
But I was just like, what? It was funny though.
Because she was confused. I don't think she ever knew that you weren't a cis.
And then I think it was the fact that we saw a different midwife every time.
But we saw her multiple times.
Yeah, we saw her. I liked her a lot.
Yeah, I liked her too. I wish she would have been there instead of that stranger lady. I don't even know her name. The lady. If I saw her walking down the street right now, I would know her. So, yeah, and I've given Ashner feedback about that several times because I had a problem with it because like nobody else had to do that, and I don't understand why we had to provide a marriage license.
Yeah, agreed. And that same thing happened to us at Turo. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. People have babies all kinds of ways, put whatever they want on the birth certificate, and we also had to produce our marriage license. And we had not been married that long. You know what I mean? Like we could have just as easily not been married at the time. I was pregnant when we got married, and we didn't get married so that we could show a driver's or
marriage, right?
Yeah.
In the hospital when we gave birth.
To say that I'm impressed because I made the decision that I was not going to give birth, and I'm impressed that you've had both the partnering and the birth giving aspect.
Yeah,
impressive. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was obviously easier on the partnering end.
I didn't find it easy, but
you didn't actually.
It was like, I mean, a world of difference. Just not going through it, obviously, but all the other stuff, it was just like I didn't feel like we were in a situation where they wouldn't honor, what she wanted, or like I would have to be like all, eyes open about everything. Like I felt like it was a real trustworthy situation. So it was really relaxing.
Right. Like before they cut the cord, they're like, "Did you want to do delay cord clamping?" And I was like, "But." I had to be boisterous about like, I want this. They're like, "Would you like?" So I'm for all the hippie stuff. That was like I said, Jay's cousin was like the model, and
they should. No, I don't know.
No, don't put last next to that. But she had to fight for stuff she wanted, and she had a terrible end of the stick.
Yeah, she ended up being a statistic, sadly, very very sadly. But yeah, it was a horrible situation, but it was definitely a learning experience, so that we knew like, these are warning signs.
And don't just like trust like so. I feel like you go to so one thing that me and her both talked about, like when we and her were both trying to get pregnant, was how just you know, birth rates and stuff with Black mothers and not being so trusted in the system, and that's why she wanted that plan.
Yeah.
But you assume, like, both of us were like, although we want to do the hippier thing, it's a safety net being in a hospital. But
yeah, that was like scare straight for us.
Yeah, but it was like the fact that the hospital isn't always a safety net and doesn't even always have, like, you know, just like the different experiences that, you know, we have versus other women is not okay. And yeah, it was a lot, but I don't know. I even hate to say that, like, we learned from her experience because it's just not fair. But
we definitely did learn, though.
We did learn.
We experienced.
We
watched, literally watched it. Yeah. So it was a nice breath of fresh air, especially with that being so recent. That happened like in the end of March in 2018, and Evie was born January of 2019. So it was like kind of like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, until we got to like when it was time to give birth, and we were like, oh, okay, so we can just, like, you know, relax a little, like actually sleep and, you know, not be stressed 24/8 about every single thing, because it was just like worst.
Yeah. Thank goodness. I'm glad that was your experience, to be able to, I mean, it's a, like you said, such a unbelievably hard won lesson. And like you say also, I mean, particularly for Black women, Black folks giving birth, there's not guarantees that what we want and need and our pain or what we're experiencing is going to be honored. It's not like you, I mean, exactly as you said, I mean, places of birth giving are not necessarily safe spaces, but I'm glad that you were able to find space where you were able to create safety and that you had folks who were supporting that. And that it sounds like the experience in general, though there were some funky things, but with the midwives, you had agency and were able to sort of do the things that you wanted to do.
I also think it was really nice. The thing about breastfeeding is like it kind of made me, I kind of like feel like I was a part of a community, because now I run into these women that like we all were at so what is Nurse Nikki one called if she's not Cafe LA?
Oh, now she's called Bloom Maternal.
Oh, whatever. Those, I went to like every breastfeeding group there was. So
yeah, like at New Orleans Breastfeeding Center.
Yes, we went there. Yeah, we went everywhere. But it made me feel like a part of like a community and like, oh, you know.
And they were mostly Black too. I think that was important.
They're all, well, no, yeah, they're almost all Black except for like a few Latino women.
No, that's a white couple too. With the dad.
I don't remember a white couple.
They were on the Zoom.
No, that's not. They weren't. That's from the other group, the Play Date. That's where we do like these little parenting Zoom things with what is it? I don't know what they're called. We do all the things because we need all that.
Yeah, for real.
Oh my gosh, yes. I know. We did all the things. Like, did y'all ever do We Play? Do you ever go to
that's what they is. We Play. That's who we do the Zoom with. At 11, when we were still virtual and I was at home with Evie, it was nice because that's how I could get a session in. I would put the Zoom link on and put Evie in her room with the gate, and then like we trying to teach my students in the other room. It was fun. But
COVID life, that COVID life. Oh my gosh.
COVID life. Yeah, I like the little parenting classes they have, like for temper tantrums.
Yes.
And now you can start going back in person, so that's good.
Yeah, we saw that too. I mean, because she's at Hoffman, we haven't been able to take advantage, but we love We Play. We love Miss Melanie and Miss Christine and Miss Tayshawn, who I don't think is there anymore. But I haven't seen her on the things in a while. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's when you look, there's there's some really good resources here in New Orleans, and a lot of like Black women run.
Yeah. It would be even like sometimes I wish there was like, because like Nola Gay Families is good and all the like Black women centered things are good, but I would like a mashup of the two where it's just like a Black queer mom thing. Yeah. But
Is it being born right here?
maybe we start the space.
Yes, exactly. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, we could totally do that.
Let's do it most definitely. What is an important offering that you think that being part of your family in particular brings to your kids?
They definitely feel comfortable to be themselves. Um, like to the umpteenth degree. They don't feel the need to hide anything.
Yeah. I don't know
Hide
about
something.
you, but I know at John Michael, he's very vocal about like gender queer stuff because like he has to explain, not so much now because he hasn't been in school and the people here around, obviously he doesn't have to explain to them, but like when he was in school, when other kids would try to figure out like my gender, he would like explain to them.
Mm.
I thought it was hilarious because it was just all over the place. But um, yeah, I think that just being us has introduced a lot of people to alternative families, especially like not so good experiences with daycare and like school for John when John Michael was in school. It was just like, yeah, it was like some people act like they had never like even just as simple as like her being a step parent. People were just like, what? And it was like,
It was
come
weird.
on, people, like
Yeah.
not hard, but
Yeah. Agreed. It's really not. That's the thing that's frustrating to me too. It's like, is it really that hard to sort of listen to what people are, the information people are giving you about their own experience, and
yeah,
just take that and move it along and sort of take it.
There's something about the South, though, that there are structures that we're definitely breaking up
yeah,
just by being strong and insistent and being true to our lives, and to our families and to our broader community,
yeah. It has definitely made me be more vocal about like gender stuff because although she doesn't like it, I'm quick to correct them when they say mom or anything like in reference to me, and I'm like, no, that's her. But she doesn't like that title.
It's weird to me because Jay will fight you tooth and nail. Do not call me mom, but then like forces the mom title upon me, and I don't like it either. So it's like weird, but yeah, it's. I think that's been really weird for it. I think that's a good thing though, like teaching children that family doesn't have to fit this mold. Cause like, yeah, I don't know what Evie thinks, but so many times, like since being at Hoffman, so many times people have told her like, go to your mommy, and then they're like pointing at me. But before that, she didn't realize any of those things. She thinks my mom is her sister.
Your mom.
She doesn't understand like familial titles at all.
Nobody is any of those things. My mom is a BB. Jay's mom is a Yaya. I'm a Yay. There's none of those things. The only thing she has is a brother for sure.
Yeah.
But she calls.
Do you have an answer? What do you think is an offering that being in our family gives our little ragamuffin?
I think I don't know. She seems to be thriving. So.
She's alive. We give her food and shelter.
No, but I mean, she seems to be thriving. She's curious, playful. She's totally snarky and stuff that works. For in this in this household. So yeah, I think she's
Ever, I don't know at what point she'll realize that other people are much more stringent about gender pronouns, like if you call them by this term or you call them by the, you know, at some point in her life that may, I'm sure that that will sort of enter her consciousness. But the fact that she has a sense of freedom and flexibility around who is dear to her, like you were saying, you know, like who's in her life um
she's got a
and
long
what gender
memory
looks
too.
like. Yeah, she's a really good memory. But I think is a really I think it's a useful way to kind of enter the world and not feel like you need to like be in a box.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, yeah. I think that's the unique thing or the best thing. Or like, I read this article about kids who have two moms or non-traditional families. Like, they thrive so much. They thrive very well because, like, if you just think about it, like that, you're getting a double nurturing, a double, and I don't know. Of course, I think it's superior, but they come out great. Like everybody, I can't think of anybody who I know who comes from a non-cis whatever family who doesn't have like really great, super smart kids. Like just yeah.
Exactly. The queer agenda.
Funny place to end. So much for listening. And thank you to Jane and Sean for sharing their experiences. That video actually, we went on for a very long time, just kind of which the video was longer than an hour because we have such a short. I ended up snipping it down to sort of key points, but it just fact that folks are hungry to share their birth stories with one another. I'm sure that folks have experienced that in their work. Um, you know, but from the through the kind of Black queer lens, both the things that were related to that and just broadly speaking, just sharing this intense and sometimes vulnerable experience in our lives. Um, I'm moving forward. Assuming y'all can hear me again, I don't see anything in the chat. Amanda, I'm curious what came up for you, what resonated for you in this video.
Well, so much came up for me. So many things. I thought about Lily is actually my second pregnancy. So my first pregnancy, I didn't miscarriage, and I feel like so I really related with what Jay was saying about not having option masculinism too, and about the trauma that they had a family experience, but I felt like in that experience, which was very different from my pregnancy with Lily, I wasn't heard, I wasn't respected, and I wasn't treated with compassion and care. And it did end in miscarriage. I feel like with Lily, my OBGYN really did the opposite. Like she didn't always understand everything about being queer, being Black, but she definitely was willing to listen, to treat me with compassion and with care and respect. And I so it was just really night and day. And they literally happened 10 years apart, right? So in 10 years, and two different, like I'm born and raised in New Orleans. So same city, but two different medical systems that I was in. You know, one I had insurance, one I did not have insurance. And I remember I was in the hospital on Friday for my normal checkup. Um, I was saying something is wrong here. I said, to the doctor that I was seeing, um, something is wrong. It was a resident at the time. And I got dressed, got off the table, and I'm a nosy sort. I'm a curious cat. So I journeyed down the hallway he left. He went to talk to physician over the, OBGYN session, and he heard him say to her that there's nothing wrong with her. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really crazy. And so my what I knew was going on was dismissed. And this was Friday. And on Monday at 11 a.m., I went into miscarriage. So I just, it just, it just, I don't normally think about that because it was so, not only was it's a painful space, to be in, but yeah, it just, the video really brought that up. How much difference being listened to and being respected and being treated with compassionate care makes in the life of any person, any birthing person, any mom, and just in my life. So thankfully, when I did miscarry, thankfully I did get to the hospital, right? And because I could not be, if I had not gone to the hospital anyway, I would not be here to have had Lily or to be here on this panel. So thankfully I did not. I'm not a statistic and I'm not lost, but my daughter, my first child, I had named her Asha, which means life actually, in Swahili. And, I wrote many poems about her, but I often don't read them. But I love in her, I cherish her, even though she did not make it to this side. And I thank her for the time we did have together, which was wonderfully sweet. Like I was, like I said, 23, but I was a totally different woman. The woman, you had met me post Lily. Post Lily is a totally different. I was like a responsible adult. It's a wild person. And so when Asha came, into my life, while I was pregnant, I would read to her at night, and I would read to her like the Bible. I was I don't know, quasi-Christian at the time. It was weird. But she, she did give birth to me. Again, I think that for me, being a mom and giving birth is also like rebirthing myself, learning how to love and mother myself as I'm mothering the life that I brought into the world. So she did that. Even though she's, gone off to wherever the universe brings children. So that stuck with me. Let's see, I wrote a little note because I'm, let's see, acceptance. You mentioned offering. What do I offer Lily as a mom, as a queer Black mom, a lesbian? Well, first of all, I offer acceptance to all the kids in my life. I'm a mom, but before I was a mom, I was a TD. So TD is a sweet term we use here for aunt. And my sister had my first nephew I was 29. I was like, oh my God, there's a baby in the house. And I just fell in love with Jaden. And oftentimes, when he would wake up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. crying, he fed, but just wanted whatever babies want, I would take him to my room and hold him, and then we would go to sleep. And it stayed that way for many moons. So for, I think, all the kids in my life, I have 3 nieces. Nieces is my word for nieces and nephews, and all of them have, I love it. So I offer them acceptance and love. and then compassion, and I think freedom and liberation. I think that, yep, I think that coming out as a lesbian, which I didn't do until after Lily was born, but I lived as a bisexual woman before that. So being queer, I had to like learn how to disrupt, or just my existence disrupt the, you know, white supremacist patriarchy. But um, I had to learn how to accept that and to like walk in that and embrace that. And so whether the kids are, you know, cishet or whatever their sexuality is, they will learn how to disrupt this oppressive system in my hopes and dreams. And to be their full selves, right? So, um, yeah, I think that they also know to be transparent, and I believe in a practice, you know, radical honesty. So they know that they can be completely honest with me and bring whatever it is they're dealing with to me, and we can talk about it and work through it. Um, I think as a queer woman, also, and especially coming out late in life as a lesbian, I've learned a, a ridiculous amount of self care. Like I had to. Like if I would not be alive if I didn't know how to care for myself. Um, I don't remember the specific quote. I love Audre Lorde, but she said that self care is, and I, you know, I should have Googled it because it just came up in my brain, and you know, that's how my brain works. Self care. I'm gonna Google it because it's so beautiful, and I don't want to mess up Mother Audrey's words because I love her. Yes, caring for myself is not self-indulgence; it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Amen. So, I just would like to say that if I had not learned how to care for myself, that I would not be here. I'd be dead. And the kids see that, right? And they learn how to care for themselves and how to care for each other. Um, so that's tremendous. Um, yeah. So that's a little bit about what I offer as a queer Black woman. Oh, self-acceptance, right? How can we go into the world as queer people of color, queer Black folk, who are out, you know, and not accept ourselves? Like, it is a really hard road if you don't accept yourself, you don't love yourself. And as I grow older, I just turned 42 in March. Yay!
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
As a nerd, I know that I am the official answer to the universe. So that's Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. If you need to go get up on your nerd stuff. But yeah, I know that the more I grow, the more I learn to love me, the deeper that goes. And I'm teaching them to love themselves now. It's so exciting to imbue that into children, you know, from the get go. Who knew that could happen? You could be like born and learn to love yourself and love who you are. It's amazing. So I think that's what I offer. And I think there was a few other things, but I don't want to go over time. Oh,
No, but
yeah.
this has been wonderful. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I think that I was talking about experience, what I have to offer as a queer person, as a Black queer person, and what we need. And I think yeah. And so if you have other questions, I love questions.
Yay. Amanda, first of all, just thank you so much for sharing the fullness of your experience, and in terms of the piece around not having been listened to. I just want to name that I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I really, I just heard the fact that you brought that experience, again, the fullness of your experience, including having the experience of being listened to in that space and honored with with a future birth. Um, yes, I just really appreciate all that you shared. And I'm just so glad that you're here and that you're here with your family and here for Lily and your little one. Um, and yeah, I mean, that is the piece around sort of queer family building, Black queer family building that tracks, I guess, with the research such it is as it is, and the statistics such as they are. There's not a ton, but what is out there about kind of queer folks building their families, and specifically around kind of reproductive care, is that piece around, I'll sort of put in the first and plural, we have similar needs in general and also different needs. Um, and that piece come up actually quite a few times during this conference. Um, that piece around listening to people and treating them like human beings in general, and particularly at what will likely be the most intense experience of their life for whatever reason, for all the reasons, goes a long way. Just starting there. And it seems to be really, I wish I could quote it even at a recording of Ashley Hill Hamilton on Friday night for this session, of this conference, saying it's people will pay thousands of dollars for trainings. And that piece is very challenging for a lot of leaders, which is very frustrating and is, true for folks and also true across the board, and can be very useful in engaging with really any client and through our lens as queer
Yeah.
folks, but just in general. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think that there's a few things that are happening. Like traditionally, and still in some medical textbooks, medical professionals are learning that Black people experience pain differently and less than white folks, like still in today's medical textbooks. And this is a layover from slavery, and
Yes.
it directly impacts every Black person and every Black person's medical care, um, especially moms. So, and birthing people, let me just say that. So if you're pregnant and I'm telling you I'm having pain, and you're like, well, she can take it in your head somewhere that happens. Someone, a medical professor, well, she can take this. This is she doesn't need anything. Um, then that dismissal can lead to so many problems along the line. May miscarriage, maybe the death of the mother as well. So there's that. That's a major part of where we have to start, like, reframing how we think about the people that we care for. From the medical system. But I feel like none of us are removed from white supremacy. It's not something that white supremacy patriarchy. None of us are removed from it. So even if we are operating practice away from the medical industrial complex, we still have to be cognizant that those ideas are embedded in our head. That poison is somewhere in our head, and sometimes, even when we don't know it, we're operating from that poison, that place of poison. And that poison can poison the well of what we want to do when it comes to caring for Black Black birthing people, right? So, yeah. So if we're talking about shifting, we have to start with ourselves, right? We have to start not just with like the movement piece, but individually, like, what poison is in my head, and how do I address it, and how, first of all, be cognizant. Like, don't think that because you're a good person, or you're a person of color, or who's not Black, or you're even a Black person, that the poison is not in your head. That poison has been fed to everyone here, alive today, who's able to receive media. Anyone who can receive media, anyone who is in contact with people who receive media, have been fed that poison. So that's one thing. I think that we have to address it individually, and then we have to address the systems that we are part of, right? The systems that we build, the organizations that we create, both the ones inside and outside of the traditional medical fields. Because when we come with that poison, it trickles up and it trickles down, right? It doesn't just stay in us. It doesn't just like it affects all the systems that we create. All the things that we create will be impacted if we do not um, um, consciously address that and consciously work to decolonize our systems and ourselves. So I think that's very important to note. I think that if we want to see change, then we have to acknowledge that we are part of this system, and then we have to acknowledge that this affects all Black birthing people, right? And that it's built to destroy, right? White supremacy patriarchy is built to destroy. It's not, gonna want to help and care for me and my kid, or support me in my pregnancy. So we have to acknowledge that. That's one, and it can, because it's a poison, it's an adaptogenic poison, so it will play out in different ways in our lives. I think that's important. Oh, I like
Yes,
that.
absolutely, 100%. And
Adaptogenic poison. I have to write about that.
please do, and please share as well. Thank you so much for that. And it's really true. And also part of everything that you said is so important, and particularly that piece around sort of acknowledgement of the white supremacist patriarchy in our systems, not just medical system, not just sort of outside of that, but across the board, is not a passive process. It really just sort of knowing that it exists and wanting it to not affect one's practice, kind of having the intention to have it not affect one's practice is not enough. It has to be an active kind of beginning with the individual process around how does, like, you just reflect back the language you, or paraphrase language you use, like, how is this a poison affecting me, and how am I bringing this into my life and work, and where is it showing up in the system in which I work, and how can I push back against that.
Yes.
Yeah, and so thank you so much for lifting that piece up. And I really sort of bristle at the idea that I oftentimes we talk about, sort of inclusion, whether that's some queer inclusion or inclusion around race. But I like to think about it more of sort of expansiveness, expanding the definitions and the kind of umbrella of sort of taking it from kind of reproductive health of one's practice. And I really bristle at this idea that expanding the way that we sort of conceive of and refer to and care for and kind of think about and process around who is coming into these spaces to get care and give birth is about kind of being politically correct or not stepping on toes. It's really about making it possible for people to be able to access care and have and be well in their bodies, be well moving forward, leave the place of birth, if we're talking about birth, have a successful first year, have that child live beyond that first year. This is essential work to people's lives, whether just beginning with those internal individual processes with providers, including the language that is used. I mean, this is sort of going back to and the practices that come up even around things as seemingly small as asking about birth control. I really I feel like all of that is kind of under the umbrella of being able to practice in a way that lets go of as many assumptions as possible and allows for people's full humanity and honors that full humanity. And again, that's not an easy process individually or systemically to come by. So again, yeah, thank you for lifting up that point. And honestly, and while you were speaking, I thought of another Audre Lorde quote, and I tried to quickly Google it. This piece around survival. I'm gonna quickly find that because it's always, like you said, it's always good to Um, yes, when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive, which is a quote from Black feminist lesbian parent,
Yes.
activist, just
Icon.
expansive thinker, Audre Lorde.
Saint.
Oh, Saint Audre, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I go to their parables. Yeah, Octavia and Audrey. Yeah, I go to their parables. Yeah, yeah. The
Exactly.
Psalms of Octavia and Audrey, or that's okay. I also want to have this quote. I am not sure whose quote this is. Um, Accessibility is being able to get in the building. Right? Diversity is getting invited to the table. Inclusion is having a voice at the table. Belonging is having your voice heard at the table. So I think that,
Yes.
and I think when we talk about who's who belongs, like we all belong, right? So when we shift from the assumptions to like belonging, like you
Yes.
know, Black queer people belong, Black trans people
Yes.
belong. So I feel, and our partners and our co-parents belong. So I feel like once we start shifting from, oh, do these people even get in the door, right? To having our voices heard at the table and having it being about how can we serve this community with the fullness of love for the lives that they are bringing into the world and for the life that they are. And I think that will be, you know, that will be, if we move forward in that way, that would be how I would love to see folks move forward, from a place of belonging and compassion.
Absolutely. That's so powerful, that piece around and having that as a lens, belonging, am I, sort of, if someone's speaking as a provider, am I doing my practice? Am I working in a way that is fostering belonging for everyone who comes into my presence?
Yeah, I mean, I've
And
been
how do
to.
I,
Yeah.
no, please go ahead.
No, I'm yes, thank you. Because in my first, like when I think about my first experience, um, of I was 23 and uninsured, and um, I didn't feel like I belonged often because I didn't feel like the my medical providers made me made me feel welcomed or belong there. They dismissed often what I was saying, and they didn't see me as a whole person. And you can feel that. You can feel when someone is dismissive and doesn't see you as a whole person.
Exactly.
But my current OBGYN, it's like night and day. She gets me because she, even if she doesn't get everything about me, if she doesn't understand the queerness and the sex part of life that I live, even if she does that, she still gets that I'm a person who deserves compassion and that I belong here. I deserve this care. And she's going to do the best that she can do for me, just like anyone else.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that changes the whole scope of care and also my trajectory for, the pregnancy and my overall outcome. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Um, and and again, just for everything. And thank you all for being here. I want to just acknowledge that I somehow thought the session went till 12:40. I think there must have, yeah, I saw a wrong time. But technically, uh, it's 12:30. So there's networking time now. If folks would like to stick around, Amanda, are you able to stay for a few more minutes and we can open up to Q&A? We can have, if folks want to, cool, if folks want to come off of mute, share your own experiences across the board, whether that's as providers, as folks building your families, however you want to arrive and be in the space. You're so welcome. Yeah, please feel free to come off. I mean, your people can also share in the chat. I understand. I I would say this, I'm a recovering shy person. So I'm not always comfortable speaking, but I've gotten very chatty since we've gone really virtual because I'll say a lot of stuff in the chat. So if people want to share questions or comments in the chat, please feel free. But please also feel free to show your face, come off mute, and engage. It's really just, I'm glad to see so many little boxes that signify folks who are here listening. Thanks so much, Jenna.
Jenna, really an honor to be here. Thank you, Olivia, for inviting me.
Oh, such an honor to speak with you. Oh, thank you so much, Grace. So good to have you here. Anybody else? Anything in particular resonate from your own practice or your own life? Yes, you're very welcome, Andrea. Yes, yes. I'm just going to read out your comment, Jenna. So sad and enraging that true basics of being heard, honored, and respected is so hard to find. Exactly, exactly. Really true, and really, I mean, it's mind-boggling that people that this is so challenging. That on the balance of people kind of choosing a path of care and also struggling with just sort of meeting people um, where they're at as human beings is such a hard bridge. And it does go back to that ingrained, I mean, this is my belief and there is evidence around, but just that ingrained sort of white supremacist capitalist heteropatriarch. It keeps us apart. I mean, it really alienates people from their true selves, their right livelihood, their ability to engage in their in the work that they've set out to do. And this is similar to what you were saying, Amanda. And it really is infuriating.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that, Olivia. Also, and when you think about the roots of like OBGYN, the practice here in the country, we have to talk about the grandfather of
Yes.
OBGYN who started this practice, practicing on enslaved Black women without anesthesia, practicing and experimenting on our bodies, the bodies of our ancestors without anesthesia. And the idea was that we didn't feel pain or that we didn't feel less pain, but he had to know that was not true because he could hear our screams. So, but their screams did not matter. And so that, anyone can look up, it's very Googleable, but if you just Google grandfather of, OBGYN, you will find that information. And it's absolutely horrifying, that's where, and he's considered still the grandfather. In fact, just a few years ago, his statue was removed from, I don't want to say the wrong state, but it was removed. It was northeast that the statue was removed because people were saying he should not be honored as the grandfather of, gynecology and obstetrics when he in fact butchered Black women. So we are, yes, take them down, take them all down. So that is, we're still dealing with that legacy though, and that those concepts are still deeply rooted in all of us, right? And so, there's so much misogyny that happens, in just, regular social interaction, but still in the medical and caring profession, which is, it's of course counter, it's, it's beyond counter, it's counter what we're trying to do as, so yeah, I think when, um, this, that profession started in harm, in severe harm to Black women, and it's important that we call that into the conversation. Say that, or I made a note and didn't get to the note. So I'm glad we came back. Sankofa, thank you for bringing it up.
Yes.
Going back to fetch it.
Thank you so much for lifting that piece up. It's true. And because on so many levels in our country, and particularly in this area around how the the body of work around obstetric surgery has literally been kind of learned, experimenting our people, our ancestors. Has it? I mean, yes, there was a sort of push for statues to be taken down, the naming of institutions, but we haven't had a full reckoning in this country around the legacies of that trauma, of that harm, and on an intersection point, the reproductive violence that birthing folks, especially just non-traditionally gendered or queer birthing folks have experienced as well, results in, and that history as well, the result in LGBTQ folks having worse health outcomes and worse as well. And again, as we know, and we're talking about in this conversation, it's not two distinct groups either. So we've got queer folks, queer and trans folks, Black folks, and then those of us who are sort of existing at those intersections, getting care through a system that is still working out whether on many levels it wants to sort of see us as human and include us fully. And I mean, systemically, and also again, as we've talked about individually on the kind of on the level of the individual provider practice and how that reflects the system, and again, sort of full circle again.
Yeah, I think that it's important that we talk about the intersection there. I feel like, oh, and I just wanted to bring this in. I don't know if you've seen the movie Southern Comfort, which is I just will read the little listing here. It's a 2001 documentary film about the final year of the life of Robert Eves, a transgender man. He's a white man. He was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, but he was turned down for treatment by a dozen of doctors out of fear of their losing their reputation, right? So they put their reputation before this man's life. And so I think when we talk about the intersection of trans bodies, we have to talk about how, I'm sorry, it makes me sick. When I think about how, and this is 2001, they literally refused this man care, um, how people would put the optics, the representation, their reputations before his life, like his life. He died of ovarian cancer. So, and I think that, so when you talk about the intersection of Black, trans, and genderqueer folks who are birthers, you're looking at massive amounts of oppression like added up. And different ways that it, adds up. And I, as a woman, I don't know, but I know of genderqueer people who have been refused pap smears in the last, 20 years, So whereas I might be pushed to have birth control and DEPO was pushed on me, this person was refused pap smears, right? And so yeah, it is all part of the same web of oppression, but the ways that it plays out is different and harmful all along the way. So yeah, I think we have to be mindful of that for our trans siblings. Yeah. And I definitely would, that movie is really hard, but I definitely would recommend watching his documentary.
Southern Comfort. Thank you so much for lifting up not just that film, but that point as well, that importance of recognizing how there may be sort of similarities in experiences of oppression and also very distinct ways in which that need to be attended to on their own and rooted out on their own.
Right.
In order to,
and I feel it attacks us in different ways because it makes it more difficult for us to address it. But then, I feel like we have to acknowledge that I don't know what it's like for my trans siblings who are birthers, Black trans siblings who are birthers, but I do respect that, you know, I don't even know the level of their oppression. And and yeah, I think, yeah, it definitely has to be addressed. I really thank you, Olivia. This has been a really wonderful conversation and a needed space.
I want to thank you as well. I received that and appreciate you for saying that. And I really just appreciate you so much for your, again, for your insights, for your sharing your experiences, the depth that we were kind of able to go into around these points. And yeah, I'm just so happy to be here with you. Um, and thank y'all. We are at time. We are at extended time. So I know that there are other sessions happening, but really appreciate your time, attention, and presence here. Well, with that, I know sort of closing the door on the session, and we'll let you go. But thank you again so much for being here. Oh, thank you so much, Deepa. Y'all's vulnerability and sharing your stories and drawing these connections is so powerful in the face of our white-haired patriarchal medical system. So appreciate you, phenomenal provider. Just to lift up Deepa Panchang, amazing nurse practitioner at Crescent Care and wonderful friend and colleague and ally and accomplice and comrade. And thank you so much as well, everyone. So good to see y'all here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hi, and Chris, thank you so much for being a phenomenal co-pilot and co-host, keeping us in line. Yay, Jade. Oh, and I saw Maggie was here too. Hey, thanks everyone.